Can you do it all in a Scottish accent? I'll do it all in an English accent.
Hi everyone, it's Lauren. I like that. Next to me is my wee friend Jean. I'm from England. We're soon to be hyper now to film the actual discussion, so I think this is going to go well. Hi everyone, it's Lauren and I'm here with Jean, and
Hi.
Together we are Thoughts and Daydreams. And we're here today in front of Jen's bookcases. It's a beautiful merger. So we're here today to do a chat, discussion, spoilery talk about The Chimes by Anna Smaill, which we've both read. If you haven't read The Chimes yet and you would like a spoiler-free discussion, you can go to Jean's channel and I will leave the link below.
If you haven't read it, flee now.
Flee now. Or if you don't care about spoilers, then stay. Stay. But I think lots of people are reading this book because she started writing it as a YA novel and then her publishers marketed it as an adult novel. I think there's a lot of interest in it, and although we know it's not been on the shortlist now because the shortlist for the Man Booker Prize came out a few days ago, I still think it's really worth talking about this book because there's so many thoughts.
I mean, it was longlisted. That's still like an amazing thing to have been done.
It's written in first person, so from this, the main character is Simon and it's his memories, but because the main premise of the book is that everybody in this land loses their memory every single evening, and every morning they have to kind of re-remember who they are. It's difficult. When you're reading it, you're kind of like, well...
You get the gaps as well.
It feels like Simon is talking to you, but if Simon's forgotten stuff, then he just won't tell you. Yeah. So you're kind of reading it, sort of catching up.
I felt like, it's funny because I didn't read the blurb inside the book before I started it, and I totally, for the first like few pages, thought it was a girl. I thought the main character was a girl, but they're not, they're a boy. No. And there's lots of moments like that where like I thought one of the main characters, Lucian, was in his 50s until like halfway through. He's not, he's like 20. And it's quite important that he's not 50.
So what was the thing that you really liked? Like when you want to talk about,
Well, I think Anna Smaill's writing is lovely. Like although the book itself, because of that premise, can be a little bit confusing, I think Anna Smaill is like a beautiful writer. Like I really liked her prose. And this is her debut novel. It felt like this is just the beginning of someone's career.
And Anna Smaill trained as a musician, and the premise of this book is that what is destroying their memories is a musical instrument, and a lot of their language is very musically based as well. Like when they say go faster, they say presto, and then they say like piano to mean soft. And it's woven in so well.
There were some occasions where I sort of had to like look things up because I know nothing about music and was sort of like, I'm not sure, and then, but as soon as like I looked, it was only a few words, and I'd look them up and find out, oh, this means fast-paced or like something like that in musical terms, and that made it really nice. And I can just imagine that if you do know music, you would love this book. It shouldn't stop you from reading it because you don't do music, because like I don't do music, but I think it is like a nice like a thing. If you do music, it's particularly the book for you.
I think it's written quite well. Like in most dystopian worlds, people have their own slang, and I think it's just chucked in there as slang that the people are using, and if you're reading it in context, you kind of get what it means.
Exactly. One of those dystopians that tries to like immerse you in the world. They show, not tell.
How well do you think that comes across? Because you're definitely thrown in, which is,
so at first very jarring. Yeah, definitely. But I think as it goes on, it definitely builds. But I feel like, although like I still enjoyed it, there were still bits I feel like I never learned. That I'm sure Anna Smaill probably had in her head, but I never got to know.
So it's like, it's great because it's the memory loss. You're thinking, oh, this is amazing because you're just thrown in. But on the other side, it's like, I do still want to know what's going on. Like I love the immersion. But
there's some gaps I wish had been filled in that weren't filled in. Yeah, totally.
Something I remember, like, right towards the end, you know, they kept saying, like, oh, we've gone to the cross house.
Yeah.
And right at the end, I was like, oh, it's a church. I literally didn't know. I was like, why are you going?
Yeah, there are, like, a lot of moments like that. You fill in the gap, but you might not fill in the gap right, and on occasion I filled in the gap wrong.
Like you said with Lucian's age.
Totally not.
He was an old man.
I thought he was like a Fagin type out of all of it.
So because it's set in dystopian London, I thought that was really interesting. As someone who lives in London, all of the names of the places they go to are like bastardized versions of that place name, and I'm kind of thinking in my head, okay, so if he's here, where's he going next? Is that Covent Garden he's going to now? And I actually
they were going to Oxford at one point. That's where the other place was, isn't it? Yeah.
And it was kind of enjoyable for me as someone from London, especially as actually I think the bit of London they're in is actually the bit of London I live in. So I was going, oh hey, I know where
that's your future.
But I don't know how well that came across for someone who doesn't know London that well. Like it's very London focused.
Well, I mean, I'm not from London, but I know London like at least to like visit. And I didn't feel like confused. Like I didn't feel lost, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because a lot of the time it's like, oh, I started here, then I went here, then I went here, and it's quite geographical, a lot of it. So
yeah, I imagine that you probably had a bit more like of a visual experience than I did then.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, something I really loved actually, which I don't think we've spoken about this yet, is the whole like silver lady thing. Like, so they're looking for palladium, because then they call the lady, and then there's the whole, because there was the shattering before, and like London Bridge fell down, and they're like, oh, my fair lady. And oh, there's so many.
There is lots
like
of layers, and it's
references
just getting down to them. It's kind of like the cover.
Yeah, the cover's really cool as well.
Because there is lots of like layers in it.
So you've got like the violin at the top, but then we've got St Paul's down here, which is a cathedral in London. I'm guessing this is like the Thames, this bit down here. And this is what you told me, but I didn't even know. Like these are two people's faces. These
so those are probably Lucian and Simon, the two main characters.
And we've also got a raven down here as well.
Yeah,
the raven thing I really like.
Yeah, I like
the whole link to the ravens of the Tower of London.
Like, I wish there'd been a longer ending. Like, the ending was very and then it was done.
That's the thing. I think for me, and I've seen some other people's reviews as well, I know Holly thought the same thing, which was, it's just a novel of two halves. And you've got the whole section in London where they're kind of finding out and sort of remembering what's going on. And then the second half, when they decide to do something about it, suddenly it's like a different book. It's completely different.
Yeah,
the beginning is
fast-paced action. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and it's just like on and on and on, and you really get the sense that the first half is an adult literary novel and the second half is a YA novel.
Yeah, definitely. It is. It's so odd. Like, it's not like it's terrible, but it is odd. Like, you do feel that.
It's just a bit jarring. You're just a bit like, oh, okay, now this is happening.
That is like two books, because in the first half as well, there was characters that were in the book that seemed really interesting, and then they just aren't there in the second half at all.
Yeah.
And we get some new characters who aren't quite as like developed as the first half's book's character. Every time I say all of this, I always just want to say as well, like, I did really enjoy reading this book. That's the thing.
That's the problem. I think that's why I wanted to have this discussion, because it's like, I loved it so much.
And that's maybe why you pull it apart so much, because you're just like, I really enjoyed this book. Oh, I just wish this had happened, or this had happened, or
it's
more
like I
of
just
this
want
or something.
a little bit more from it, and I'm just kind of reading
like,
it going, it's such a good idea.
Yeah.
I want more.
And I don't mind that it ends and you don't find out what happens after they bring down this dystopian world. That doesn't really bother me, because that's you fill it in what happens after. But it does bother me that it was so quick.
Yeah, I think this is what we discussed as when we were reading it. You get all these new characters once you get to the is it called the Citadel? It's like the Oxford place that they get to anyway. And you've got Lucian's sister and his like nurse lady or the servant.
His mum's servant, nurse,
And they both die. And like, but you've known them for like 5 minutes. Like, you're kind of reading it and going, oh, these beautiful characters, and I know they've got history with Lucian, but it would have been more emotional if they'd told, like, we'd learned more about them before they died. Yeah. Because that image of how they killed, like, the servant woman was quite disturbing, but I feel like it would have been, she almost just felt like not a character to me. Yeah. Like, you got the sense of it, like she was sacrificing herself for them, but you just got kind of the bare bones of the idea.
Yeah, we hadn't identified with her.
Yeah, you just kind of had to assume that Lucian would find that upsetting, which isn't necessarily.
It just could have been longer, like it's not like it's that big a book.
Yeah, I definitely would have read more of this. I think maybe, is that the fault of the editors / publishers, do we think? Like, if she thought she was writing a YA novel, and then they thought, actually, this writing is special, like this idea needs to be pushed forward, we'll make it more literary adult section. You know, perhaps this was shorter. And then they've kind of built out the beginning.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's kind of like it feels like what is it does seem to be to do with that whole YA adult thing. That's where not the problems, but like the kind of inconsistencies have occurred. That seems like what's caused it.
And I think it's difficult as well, like if you're going to market it, like I actually think a lot of YA readers, I think, would find this really slow. Like at the beginning.
In the beginning, it's very slow. Yeah, but actually someone commented on my review saying that they didn't like the first half because it was too slow, but I really liked the first half because it was slower.
What I wanted. I loved them. I just wanted more of the first half.
The other thing that we were going to talk about was the romance.
Oh yeah.
I like
that's the other thing that's like, that's YA-y, is that there's a romance.
And I like that the romance is like LGBT. That's nice. Like, it's nice that there's like more books should have like LGBT romance in it, and just casually like men fancy men as well. Like, no big deal. Except it just seemed to come out of nowhere.
Yeah, but I think the reason it felt so like out of nowhere, I don't know if this is partly because they're losing their memories every day.
Yeah.
So maybe they had built a relationship and Simon had just forgotten. I don't know. They did feel a bit like
it's that whole thing when people say like, oh, I didn't realise I had felt this all along, and I get, okay, so that makes a little bit more sense in a
because you would forget.
Yeah, but still, like, they remember their parents and they love their parents, or would you not have stored it in a memory, or?
Yeah, you would think so. I actually felt like their relationship, even as friendship, came from nowhere. Like he was suddenly like, I would follow Lucian anywhere, and I'm like, oh really? Or perhaps that's something that's not quite come across, because Lucian just feels like this father figure for the whole group. And then suddenly when they run away,
really fancied. Yeah, that's a bit weird.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
I do feel like that could have been developed better, but I think it just was unnecessary as well. Like I'm like, there's.
I think that's a symptom though of YA type literature, because I feel like there always has to be a romance, and this didn't need a romance.
This, I didn't expect a romance, so.
No, but I just think if you have two characters, whether they're two men, two women, a man and a woman, they can save the world without loving each other. You still don't need that.
Yeah.
So I guess to summarise, we both really like this book.
Yeah, I would say go read it. After reading that, despite the things I would have changed or hoped would be different, the next book she comes out with, I will be buying.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Like, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's amazing. And she's gone straight to like the long list, which is
that's
amazing.
amazing.
And it's great that something YA-y.
Yeah, it's something with that
Well.
bridging
Yeah.
gap. Yeah.
Alright, thanks for watching. I hope that was interesting. If you've read the Chimes, and if you've not read the Chimes, like what are you doing? Go and read the Chimes. We're going to wave bye. Wave bye with me. Okay, so I will see you next time. Bye! That's what we're calling our publishing house.
Thoughts and Daydreams. Yeah. We're going to publish Jen's poetry.
Yeah. I probably won't write anything, but I'll just be there like doing the accounts. That's my job. Ready?
I'm going to write myth retellings.
Oh, I like
That's what
that.
I'm gonna
Ooh, like the Cangate myths, but
Yeah,
Jean's myths. Myths and daydreams.
Ooh.
That could be like the
Yeah,
subgenre.
I like that. Or offshoot.
Yeah. And you can watch a review she does of the book.
Oh shit, you're going to talk about spoilers, aren't you?
I'm ready.
Oh, get out!
So you just spoke
Sorry.
over like my.
I'm sorry, please
Yeah.
continue.
I'm gonna have like, oh shit! And then I'm laughing now.